If you hate a person, you hate something in him that is part of yourself. What isn't part of ourselves doesn't disturb us. Wisdom cannot be imparted. Wisdom that a wise man attempts to impart always sounds like foolishness to someone else. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. Whoever wants music instead of noise, joy instead of pleasure, soul instead of gold, creative work instead of business, passion instead of foolery, finds no home in this trivial world of ours. I have been and still am a seeker, but I have ceased to question stars and books. I have begun to listen to the teaching my blood whispers to me. Words do not express thoughts very well. They always become a little different immediately after they are expressed, a little distorted, a little foolish. It is not for me to judge another man's life. I must judge, I must choose, I must spurn, purely for myself. For myself, alone. Some of us think holding on makes us strong, but sometimes it is letting go. I have always believed, and I still believe, that whatever good or bad fortune may come our way, we can always give it meaning and transform it into something of value. Without words, without writing and without books there would be no history, there could be no concept of humanity. I live in my dreams, that's what you sense. Other people live in dreams, but not in their own. That's the difference. Solitude is independence. It had been my wish, and with the years I had attained it. It was cold. Oh, cold enough. But it was also still, wonderfully still and vast, like the cold stillness of space in which the stars revolve. We are not going in circles, we are going upwards. The path is a spiral, we have already climbed many steps. What could I say to you that would be of value, except that perhaps you seek too much, that as a result of your seeking you cannot find. Oh, love isn't there to make us happy. I believe it exists to show us how much we can endure. There is no reality except the one contained within us. That is why so many people live such an unreal life. They take the images outside of them for reality and never allow the world within to assert itself. Often it is the most deserving people who cannot help loving those who destroy them. Love must not entreat, she added, or demand. Love must have the strength to become certain within itself. Then it ceases merely to be attracted and begins to attract. Words do not express thoughts very well. They always become a little different immediately they are expressed, a little distorted, a little foolish. And yet it also pleases me and seems right that what is of value and wisdom to one man seems nonsense to another. When you like someone, you like them in spite of their faults. When you love someone, you love them with their faults. I will no longer mutilate and destroy myself in order to find a secret behind the ruins. Because the world is so full of death and horror, I try again and again to console my heart and pick the flowers that grow in the midst of hell. People with courage and character always seem sinister to the rest. Those who are too lazy and comfortable to think for themselves and be their own judges obey the laws. Others sense their own laws within them. In eternity there is no time, only an instant long enough for a joke. Youth ends when egotism does, maturity begins when one lives for others. My real self wanders elsewhere, far away, wanders on and on invisibly and has nothing to do with my life. Perhaps people like us cannot love. Ordinary people can, that is their secret. For what I always hated and detested and cursed above all things was this contentment, this healthiness and comfort, this carefully preserved optimism of the middle classes, this fat and prosperous brood of mediocrity. I wanted only to live in accord with the promptings which came from my true self. Why was that so very difficult? You've never lived what you are thinking, and that isn't good. Only the ideas we actually live are of any value. I have always thirsted for knowledge, I have always been full of questions. Good that you ask, you should always ask, always have doubts. You must find your dream, but no dream lasts forever, each dream is followed by another, and one should not cling to any particular dream. I began to understand that suffering and disappointments and melancholy are there not to vex us or cheapen us or deprive us of our dignity but to mature and transfigure us. I realize today that nothing in the world is more distasteful to a man than to take the path that leads to himself. And all the voices, all the goals, all the yearnings, all the sorrows, all the pleasures, all the good and evil, all of them together was the world. All of them together was the stream of events, the music of life. I believe that I am not responsible for the meaningfulness or meaninglessness of life, but that I am responsible for what I do with the life I've got. I am in truth the Steppenwolf that I often call myself, that beast astray that finds neither home nor joy nor nourishment in a world that is strange and incomprehensible to him. They both listened silently to the water, which to them was not just water, but the voice of life, the voice of being, the voice of perpetual becoming. You should never be afraid of people. Such fear can destroy us completely. You've simply got to get rid of it, if you want to turn into someone decent. You understand that, don't you? A wild longing for strong emotions and sensations seethes in me, a rage against this toneless, flat, normal and sterile life. I have a mad impulse to smash something, a warehouse perhaps, or a cathedral, or myself, to commit outrages. Opinions mean nothing, they may be beautiful or ugly, clever or foolish, anyone can embrace or reject them. You are only afraid if you are not in harmony with yourself. People are afraid because they have never owned up to themselves. A whole society composed of men afraid of the unknown within them. When dealing with the insane, the best method is to pretend to be sane. I have always been a great dreamer. In dreams I have always been more active than in my real life, and these shadows sapped me of my health and energy. One must find the source within one's own self, one must possess it. Everything else was seeking, a detour, an error. The things we see are the same things that are within us. There is no reality except the one contained within us. That is why so many people live such an unreal life. They take the images outside them for reality and never allow the world within to assert itself. You know quite well, deep within you, that there is only a single magic, a single power, a single salvation, and that is called loving. Well, then, love your suffering. Do not resist it, do not flee from it. It is your aversion that hurts, nothing else. There are always a few such people who demand the utmost of life and yet cannot come to terms with its stupidity and crudeness. Most people are like a falling leaf that drifts and turns in the air, flutters, and falls to the ground. But a few others are like stars which travel one defined path, no wind reaches them, they have within themselves their guide and path. Within you, there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself.